Glad to be here today. I want to thank Ford and Ken for putting together a series of programs in 2022 that will really help anybody that participates getting more clear about what they want to do and how to make it happen in a time that I'm being told is candidate driven. Candidates have a lot more power today than they did 3 years ago. That the recruiters that I talk to indicate that, especially at the level where most of you operate. So today, you're going to get 10 of the reasons why beacon level finalists come in second, or at best, they settle for something less than they originally thought they wanted. We're going to take a deeper dive into the 3 most common mistakes made, get a sense of what's changing in the hiring process. What is the buyer, the hiring manager, the recruiter looking for? And then I'm going to offer you a 3-step process for marketing of you, the unique you, the authentic you, so that you can re-engineer your search to ensure better outcomes. The bonuses will be a little masterclass at the end that I've thrown in that I think will be very, very helpful. Today's not about teaching you specifics of how to do things. It's making you aware of the things that over the years that I've learned from candidates that weren't working for them. They didn't know that they weren't working for them, but they were the root causes of why they came in second. So those of you that know me, many of you don't know me. 6, 15, 5. Everybody's got a number. I've had 6 distinct careers in my life, I should say, right? I've had 15 distinct jobs, and I've been told, you're no longer needed. Thank you for the time. We're going in a different direction. We no longer need you, or you're fired 5 times. So I've been through the pain. I've been through the isolation. I know what people go through when they get kicked to the curb. This research is based upon me having 13,627, to the best of my knowledge, give or take a couple, of conversations I've had with people who were in transition to another job between those dates. Because in '88, I started listening to those people tell me about their problems or issues. In 2002, I think it was, I took a survey called Strength Finders. Many of you have done that. I would urge you to do it. It really gives you insight. And there was a Beacon member at the time who worked for Gallup. She was in organizations trying to create strength-based teams. She asked me, Charlie, what are your strengths, your top 5 strengths? And I told her. Her only response was, I said, Claire, what does that mean? She said, I'll get back to you. When she got back to me, she said, Charlie, are you sitting down? I said, well, yeah, I'm sitting down. She said to me, Charlie, if I told you were 1 in a million, what would you think? I said, wow, I'm special, aren't I? She said, Charlie, no, you're 1 in 12 million. Meaning, if we take your top 5 strengths and we overlay that to what you do for a living, you are 1 in 12 million. Folks, there's nobody between here and New York City that's me. I'm unique, I'm different. We revel in that. We all are trying to figure out what's our unique selling proposition, and it all starts with who you are. We're going to talk a little bit about that today. So left at the altar, what does that title mean? So a survey of these number of senior level executives, they were all in transition to a job. They were out of work. And they found me because somebody told them about me, and they needed a job, a job, between those years. So this was coming out of the Great Recession. This was in the build back up. And then again, it was when COVID hit. So over that period of time, this is an amalgamation of that. So I'd like you to, in the chat, or no, right down in front of you, pardon me, this is not a chat question. We'll have a couple chats along the way. We will have no breakout rooms, but we will have chats. What do you think the 5 burning questions are that hiring managers need answered by you in order for you to progress through that hiring process? Just jot them down off the top of your head. What do you think they are? They want to know, can you do the job as specified? In essence, there's a technical requirement in posting. Here's what you have to be able to do. They want to know whether you've got all the boxes checked off. That's usually when an internal recruiter calls you and does a preliminary screen. They're trying to make sure that you have the minimum technical requirement. Maybe the 1st or 2nd level interviews cover that as well. They want to know, are you still passionate about this role that you've been playing most recently or over a period of your career? They want to know if you're still passionate. More importantly, they want to know if you're going to be passionate about doing for their company. So for example, if there was a wonderful opportunity right outside of Philadelphia, and you could make a ton of money and get a great title, but it was with a company that makes mustard gas. How eager are you to join that company? So you love the job, you love everything, except you don't understand or you don't agree with what their mission is. Can we work with you? So later in the round, they're trying to figure out, can this person fit in? Is this the kind of person we can get along with? Is this a yes, but kind of person, or is this a collaborative type of person looking to grow our organization, fulfill our vision? And then finally, and this is most important with a hiring manager, do they see you as an asset to the team? You can't have a team of everybody being the same. Are you complementary? Are you an asset to that team? Can you enhance the boss's vision to increase the probability that your boss will exceed his or her performance requirements, maintains his or her job, and gets promoted? They want to know if you're going to jump on a grenade for them. That's important. And on top of that, you have to be likable and get along with people. Of course, we know that. But these are the things that over time I've heard other coaches or recruiters mention are very, very important to them. I asked a search consultant out of Dallas yesterday, I said, what in preparation for this meeting, he threw in the word attitude. Attitude to him is the most important thing that senior level executives want to have. You know, you have to have a positive attitude. It's not about you, it's about them. So decision makers want to hire candidates that they get clearly. They get you, they understand you. There's no fuzziness, there's no lack of understanding of what you're about. They feel good about you. They feel good. Why are we hiring Ken? Somebody once said. I don't know, but I had this great feeling about Ken. They want to know that you will do what you say you will do. Hence the stories you tell them, the examples from your background. I've been there, done that. I can do it moving forward. And finally, they want to feel that you have a value proposition that's very clear and directly related to where they are in their growth and their development. Are you coming into the company at the right time? Are you too early? Are you too late? So I'd like you just to pause for a minute. What do you think of all the things in it that companies consider when they're considering people for particular positions? What's the most critical ingredient in the whole equation? Just take a minute, write it down. Why don't we have some shout outs here? A couple of people may want to offer their answer to the group. Let's get a little engagement going here. Go ahead.
Value proposition.
Okay.
I have to agree with Ford. It's about fit. It's about cultural fit. I can teach you everything else, but I can't change who you are.
Okay, great.
Which is chemistry. Is there chemistry? Can we work together?
There are no wrong answers, folks. What you believe is the truth until it's not. Come on. I don't want to call on people. Now, I don't want to put people on the spot.
Being collaborative.
Collaborative? Okay. Very important today, especially when we're in a hybrid environment.
And
well,
Charlie, there's some stuff in the chat. People have been putting words in like likability, collaborative, fit, value proposition. How do you fit in the company culture?
Okay. It's you. You're the most important ingredient. Now, what I mean by you, we're going to talk about that today. This is who you really are. It's not who you're pretending to be in hopes that you get hired. You know people that have done that. You've talked to people that are trying to modify or contort themselves to fit into the job description in hopes that they'll get that paycheck they've been missing for 6 months. It's you. They're listening for you, the real you, not the phony you, not the inarticulate or the unauthentic you. We're going to talk more about that as we go through this today. All right, you put your answers in the chat box. I want you to put the answers in the chat box and why should they hire you? What do you think is that unique selling proposition you bring to the table that causes them to hire you? You're a finalist. It's between you and someone else. You can't worry about the other candidate because you'll probably never know who that person might be and what she brings to the table, but you do know yourself. So what do you think the most important thing today in 2022 that you can bring to the table why a company should hire you, regardless of the role, the industry, whatever? Ken, would you read some of the answers that come through? Just the answers. I don't need the
Sure
names.
will. Well, I said leadership. We have passion, commitment, and reliability. Good relationship builder, with leadership in particular. Any others? That's what I have for now, Charlie.
Okay.
Aside from fit and likability, experience addressing the company's needs and problems, cross-functional expertise and communication skills, hardworking and passionate. That's what we have for now, Charlie.
Fair enough. Thank you very, very much. At the end of this particular meeting, I urge you to copy the chat so that you get some of the flavor of the cross-section of answers that we're getting. They're all right because they have to deal with you. It's what you think is special about you. Now, marketing yourself is as easy as 1, 2, 3. I look at the transition process in 3 areas. The first is getting clarity about yourself, who you are, what you are. Secondly, then aligning that with what the marketplace needs today and is willing to pay. And then finally, going into the marketplace and engaging with those people that can advocate for you, to be your champion, to get you in front of the people that can eventually hire you. So I see there's 3 stages. What happens with most candidates that I've found is they bypass the first and second, and they immediately want to get in front of people. The thing that they hear is you got to go out and let everybody on the planet know as soon as possible that you're available. For senior level people, I think that diminishes your preeminence. I think that takes away some of the status that you've gained over the years, because what you're doing is what I call professional begging. That doesn't go over well in the senior level and executive circles. Where those things overlap is where you're going to find that right opportunity. So what I have done over the years is I've tried to simplify what's the process, because it's convoluted, it's complicated. So let's start looking at each one of these areas from the point of view of what are the mistakes that I've determined from listening to people tell me what those things are in this first stage. And here are 6 of them. First is self-awareness. What do I mean by that? Most people, when they get out of university and they start getting in the workforce, in order to get ahead, they have to conform. There's a certain way we do things here at IBM. You don't wear a blue shirt. You don't wear brown shoes. That's how we do things here. And what we have to do in order to succeed is we have to conform. And I know that's an oversimplification, but it happens in many, many different ways inside companies. And we agree to do that because we want to go up the proverbial ladder. Because that first stage of our life, our professional life, is to acquire, is to grow, is to achieve, is to move up. That's what we're told. That's a good employee. That's a good contributor to the corporation. Over time, we lose ourselves. We forget who we really are, what our passions are, what our beliefs are, what our values are sometimes, until we get that call to come to the boss's office and we find the HR professional sitting next to our boss and said, it's over. Here's your package. Have a great life. Then we're confronted with a question like, well, Ken, tell me about yourself. And we talk about ourselves the wrong way. We talk about ourselves in the past tense. We talk about ourselves by our job description. That's not who we are. So we have to understand, who are we, so that people get to understand us for what we can potentially deliver. If people define you by what you've done in your past, your future is in question. Corporations in many ways are like vampires. They suck you out and they replace it with their image of what they want you to be. Why? Because their shareholders demand a return on money. And this is how we do it. For some people, that's uncomfortable. They want to do something in later life. Many of you are in the same boat. I want to do something different. But we have to understand who we are before we make those decisions. The decisions of what to do next and what to do after that requires to know who we are. We're the product. We're the service for sale. If we don't know what it is, We can't articulate it to people so they see us the right way. I see that as a big issue. The second is what I call head trash. That's, people refer to that as the imposter syndrome or the critic in your head, or many dysfunctional thinking. Sally Field thought that nobody in Hollywood liked her until she won an Oscar. That was her thinking. How did that motivate her life? How did that put pressure on her in performing her roles on various films, etc.? So head trash sometimes looks like this. There's more than one voice in your head. Maybe it's your parents, maybe it's your older brother, maybe it's your first girlfriend. All these things in your head get you to see yourself a certain way, because we're very much affected by how the world sees us, and that forces us to change our behavior because we want to fit in. Think about your teenage years. It was all about fitting in because you didn't want to be on the outside. The critics in our heads are the things that oftentimes can trip us up in getting clear understanding of who we are. Let's go to the next one, authentic value proposition for versus a formulaic elevator pitch. All of you who have gotten some job search assistance along the way, you were handed a form, actually it's a digital form, and you were told to fill in the blanks. I am a blank, and I have X numbers of experience doing X, Y, and Z. You filled in the blanks. You took it to the marketplace and you started talking. The people I've talked to said, that didn't sound like me. Well, what sounds like you? I don't know. But they're defined. When you hear somebody use a formulaic introduction, they immediately start thinking of you as cookie cutter, not distinctive, not different, because you sound like everybody else. Difference matters. Difference is why you get hired. They don't hire you to be like everybody else. They hire you because you're bringing something different to the table. Do we know what that is? And can we structure it in a value proposition that they get and makes sense and is relevant to what they're doing? The next thing that I've observed is we define ourselves by our past, by our resume, by the accolades we've got in the past. Remember, they're hiring you for the future. They're not hiring you for the past. And when we talk about our past without connecting it to the future, if we don't make those connections for them, they may not figure that out. Do they really care about the past? Of course they do. But you have to understand, what are the through lines of your life, your professional life, that have really made you distinctive and different and added value? Because that's what you're going to be doing for them. If we can't articulate that in the future for them and have them visualize us doing it, we have a problem. We get passed over, we come in second. Finally, a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. This concept has been very active over the last 15 or 20 years. Are we trapped by fitting in, forcing ourselves to fit into what they're about? We're trying to reposition ourselves to be a multi-specialist, being able to do more than one thing. You're not one-trick ponies. You can do multiple things. You're a value-added contributor to the future vision or mission of that particular organization. How do you portray yourself that way? So this graphic can show you how clearly different the growth mindset is with a fixed mindset. Take a moment and read some of these quotes within each head, because they affect behavior, how you interact with people, how you present yourself, how you develop your pitch, if you will. I'm not going to ask for a show of hands, but many of us have used some of these in our past. We know them oh too well, and we had to fight to get through it. The beauty of Beacon is we have this community of people that we can talk to and bounce ideas off of, so that we can move from this fixed mindset to a growth mindset. Because when we're in a growth mindset, it's endless possibilities. We're not limited by what we've done before. We're capable of adding and contributing to a company's future. So in the box, which of these 6 items that I isolated, there's a lot more. I've accumulated, I think, 61 different reasons, but the ones I'm showing you today are the ones that I've found to be most frequent and relevant. So in the box, which one do you think is the top reason why people don't have clarity or don't come across it in a clear way? And again, Ken, if you do the honors.
Ken had to step away, so I'll do it, Charlie.
Go ahead, Ford.
Head trash. That two people said that. Authentic you. Fixed mindset.
Listen, if I were in the audience like you are, I'd be reluctant to put anything out in public myself. I would. All right. But we have to recognize for ourselves what might be getting in the way. There's a great book that I'd recommend. It's come out in the recent year. It's called Think Again by Adam Grant. And what that book does is what I said earlier, everything's the truth to you until it's not. Until there's evidence-based research that indicates what we believe may not be what it truly is. We're holding on to those beliefs and we have to constantly question them. That's part of a growth mindset. Companies want people with growth, who want to grow, that want to add ideas and processes to the organization. Okay. And chances are, if they don't, that's not the kind of organization with whom you want to be associated. Remember, sometimes when you hear no, that's a blessing. Self-awareness is the top one that I've found in my research. People just don't know who they are. I sat in throughout this COVID period, we're all joining all kinds of networking groups, and everybody gets a chance to give their introduction or elevator pitch. And I sit and I listen to it, and you get a sense of people that know who the heck they are. They've given it some thought. Because again, if you leave it to other people to figure you out and tell you who you are, we're behind the eight ball. You have to tell them who you are. You have to tell them what your capabilities are. If we don't do that, they'll form an opinion that may not be in your best interest. Thank you, Ford.
My pleasure.
Let's move on to the second stage of or step of the process, the alignment phase. So these are the top 5 items that I found in the alignment phase. Now, again, the alignment phase is, how do I fit out there? You know, I now know who I am. I now know what I want to do. I know what's next for me. Now, where do I go to get it? I need to align myself with that marketplace. People have what I call a job-centered approach. They're trying to find a hole for their peg. I need a job. Charlie, don't you understand? I need to get a job. Well, I understand you need to get a job. But let me ask you a question. Imagine yourself as a president of a company. You come into your office at 7:30 in the morning. It's a beautiful summer morning. You come into your office, you sit down and you ask your assistant, hey, Rob, who's on my calendar today? He says, well, at 9 o'clock, we have the people coming over from Bain. They're going to give us an update and a report on the project that we're going to launch in the fall. He said, great. What else is on my calendar? At 1 o'clock, you got somebody looking for a job here in our finance department. He said, great, cancel the job seeker. I'm going to go play golf. Who wants to talk to a job seeker? Who wants to talk to somebody that wants a job? Who's begging you to hire them? Now, I'm not telling you everybody behaves that way, but just the association of, hi, I'm Joe, I'm in transition. You're lowering your preeminence, you're lowering your status. They don't see any value that they can get from you. You're a solution in search of a problem. You've done your homework. You know that that particular organization has certain issues or challenges. You're going to talk to that hiring manager about what they may be, how they may be hurting them, because that hiring manager may not understand that those problems exist. You found them out. They'll talk to you. You're a solution in search of a problem. Second one is misalignment of who you really are with the buyer's end game. Where do they want to go? So for example, if you're an HR professional and you want to grow culture and make things more employee-centric along the way, but you're talking to a company that wants to sell the company in 16 months, how valuable will you be? How will they listen to you and implement your ideas? Because all they want to do is sell the company. They don't want to make it a better culture. And we all know what they need to do to build the valuation of that organization over the next 12 to 16 months. So again, if we know who we are and we're trying to match ourselves with companies that have different values or different beliefs than we have or purpose, it may not work out. You may get hired, but you're not going to be there for very long. A misalignment of purpose, yours versus theirs. Your purpose may be built around growing people, growing sales, growing clients, etc. But if their purpose is, let's say, shareholder based and yours is more customer based, there could be a clash there along the way. Since the early 80s, our capitalist society has been built on what's good for the shareholder. Not what's good for an employee, not what's good for the customer, but what's good for the shareholder. Many of you have been victims of downsizing to benefit the shareholders, to pay for an acquisition. So we have to be careful. If we don't know our purpose, how can we determine what the purpose of the company is? What they say is one thing. Do they live it? Because you have to live there when you get there. So my purpose is to grow and give. Grow and give. I'm constantly learning, getting better at my craft, learning as much as I can because I need to give. That's all part of my DNA. Another issue in alignment is a match game, playing a match game versus a consultant's mindset. What does that mean? They have a job description. You've been told you need to write a resume that uses as much of that job description in your resume as possible. You need to tailor the resume to the specific requirement. I don't disagree with that. But if everybody's doing that, now you're like everybody else. I believe your job at this stage is to find out what hidden or unarticulated issues, challenges, or opportunities companies are facing that uniquely line up with who you are and what you can be. They may not be aware that they have these particular problems. You may take a look at some of their financials and find out that their cost of sales is through the roof compared to other organizations in their area. That's a problem they need to pay attention to. So isn't it appropriate that you go to the vice president of sales and tell them that? No. He could or she could be the problem. You want to go to their boss, who may not be aware that they're out of alignment with the rest of the industry. And that's bleeding money. Your job is to tell them that, aware of it, because you may be able to fix it. And the person that's creating problem is probably not the person you should go to do that. Taking versus giving. You know when you're networking with people, because in this phase of alignment, you need to go out and you need to speak to people in the various fields you're trying to get into to learn more about the industries, those particular companies, their products, services, et cetera, and clients. And so when you're networking, you know you met with people that are very transaction-based. They're very me-oriented versus a relationship-based networking approach like we practice here within Beacon. You'll get a feel for that. And if you're talking to people in these companies where you feel that me-based type of networking, you know it may not be the right place for you. It's an early warning. It's a yellow flag. Because if you mount a job search campaign directed toward a niche and specific companies in that niche that are out of alignment with you, you may get a job, but you're going to be looking for another job pretty soon. What I mean pretty soon, 18 months or more. And for most of us, we're at an age where we can't afford to have lots of mistakes late in our career. This graphic I felt kind of interesting because I felt at times that I had to contort myself to fit into their box. And the longer we're in our professional careers, it becomes harder and harder to tolerate that. Once the kids are through college, once we have the money stashed away, we're not going to put up with this anymore. But most companies want us to conform to the way they want to do business, when in reality, we have so much more to offer. We want to be appreciated for the value we can deliver and how we can deliver. So what do you think is the top reason of all of them, the ones that I shared? If you put them in the chat box, I'd appreciate it. Ken, would you do the honors? And I'll go back. I will go back. Whoop. I will go back. There we go. There they are. Of those 5, which do you think is the one that I rated as the top one?
We've got a misalignment of purpose, job-centered. Anybody else? Misalignment of you. Personally, I think the consultant mindset, I think, is a challenge there. Anyone else? Okay, I think that's what we got, Charlie.
It's a mismatch. And part of the problem with the mismatch is if we don't know who we are, we don't know who's right for us. You know, you have to kiss a lot of frogs. You got to talk to a lot of people to get a sense of what may fit, what may not fit. Intellectually, you may understand it, but you need to get out there and talk to people in the companies in which you may want to work. And again, you're in an exploratory phase. You're trying to figure out for yourself, do I want to put all my energies in going into a particular direction? This is before the resume is written. This is before the LinkedIn is written. And I know for a lot of people, that's the first things we want to do. Need that resume. You never know when you're going to get a call. But if you think about it the way I'm suggesting, by the time you write the resume, do the LinkedIn, it's going to properly reflect your potential moving forward. Just not a good history of the past, but what you represent for the future as well. Now, again, my purpose today is to educate, is to make you aware of certain things so you can reflect on them. I put this deck together so that you can use it as a resource for you later on. So you can go through these and sort of do a test against some of these points that I'm making and see if they have been active in your search. And what can you do to correct them? What can you do to minimize them? We never do away with them, but maybe we can minimize. So let's go to the last section, the targeted engagement. What are people doing there that may be getting them in trouble? The first is they want to be Batman. They're doing it alone. You know, Robin hasn't shown up, Batgirl hasn't shown up yet. They're out there alone. And in COVID, they're even more alone. Versus people that join Beacon, for example, now they're part of the Justice League. How does that make you feel, Beacon members? You're a group of people, we're working together to help one another, members helping members, right? And it may be around giving you feedback on your unique selling proposition, on your LinkedIn profile, or whatever it is. People can help us because you need the crowd out there giving you feedback. The second one is what I call whack-a-mole. This is where you get distracted. You're on a path, you have your little niche you're going after, then all of a sudden you get something from LinkedIn, a particular job posting, and all of a sudden you get distracted. It may not be in alignment with what you thought you wanted, but my God, it looks good. It's right around the corner. Wow, prestigious company, big title, and you get distracted. And we chase all these different things and we get nothing done. Activity and progress are two different things. We want progress in a search, just not a lot of activity. So whack-a-mole, the antidote for that is to be proactive. Have a strategy, work the strategy, work the tactics within that strategy to move you forward. A lot of people will say to me, Charlie, this looks like it's going to take a lot of time. I said, yeah, without it's even going to take longer. You need to get it done. How can you build an airplane unless you have directions and a way of putting it together? You can't. It's a process. If you break it all down, great successes are all a function of working the progress, whatever it might be. Process, pardon me. Next, random marketing plan. You're doing all kinds of different things. Those of you who have decided to be consultants, you know, you'll say, listen, I'm not getting, my pipeline's not filling up. Well, you'll say, hey, you don't have the right SEO, or you don't have the right type of website, or your LinkedIn isn't properly put together. That may not, you have to have a strategy versus just tactics. And most people operate with tactics. I know I did. Listen, I've been told to get out of a company 5 times. That wasn't because I was doing everything right, that I had a strategy. I made lots of decisions along the way that align with some of these mistakes perfectly. Okay, it cost me time, cost me money, cost me prestige. At this stage of our careers, we don't want that anymore. We want to get it right one last time. Charlie, I want this to be my last rodeo. I get it, but sometimes that's outside your control if you don't make the right choices of where to go, with whom to work. The next one's what I call infobesity. This is a tsunami of facts that we throw at people in hopes that they get us. If we throw enough paper up against the wall, something will stick. If we throw out enough facts about us, enough achievements about ourselves, maybe they'll understand us. Versus asking intentional questions that will produce the answers that you need to make your decisions about whether that's the right organization or not. I believe people know you by the questions you ask, not the fantastic answers you give. The questions tell people this person knows, this person, even though they're not in our industry, man, do they understand how business works. They really understand marketing. They really understand supply chain. The questions are so important. Are you asking the right questions? Asking about the number of PTO days, asking for the amount of time that you'll be able to take in training. Those types of things are not the questions they want to hear. And lastly, the lack of authentic, genuine stories that will inspire the other person and trigger meetings with influencers. Listen, facts tell. So when you listen to a lot of people give their elevator pitch, it's a bunch of facts about them. That's great. That's wonderful. People don't remember them. They'll remember a story, though. They'll associate you with that particular story. Then it becomes easier for them to say, you know, Ken, I met this woman. Fantastic. Her name's Joelle. You know, let me give you a little overview of the story she told me. They'll remember the story. And the stories tell more than facts. They talk about your values. They talk about your beliefs. They talk about how you interact with people. They reveal more than just the facts. You could give them a litany that you're brave, clean, reverent, strong, etc. But when you tell a story that reveals those things, they'll remember it. And people in search don't work enough on their stories. So simply use the STAR format. That's a wonderful format, but you got to weave in there what your values are, what your beliefs are. Just two things that you can put in there. People need to understand those. So here's some extras. Many people in an interviewing process wait. They're followers. They're not leaders. They don't take the lead in the meeting. People are hiring you to be a leader. At our level, they're hiring you to be a leader. But if you sit there passively and wait for the questions to come, if you haven't prepared questions for them, what does that say about how you're going to perform and behave inside their corporation? Many of them may like you because they want you to just shut up, sit down, and do what they tell you to do. That's great. But for most of us, we're not going to tolerate that. We're there to be heard. We're there to contribute. We're there to help a company grow. We must take a leadership role in the interviewing process. Next, it's about me versus them. We're talking about ourselves as opposed to their organization. That individual we're talking to wants to be heard. They have goals. They have dreams within a company. Find out what their dreams are and how you will, in the future, be able to support them in pursuing those types of things, especially when you're dealing with strategic partners inside the organization. HR says all the time, oh, we're a business partner to the business. Okay, well, how are you going to help me? A lot of times they don't talk about that. They don't find out what the problems are. That statement is not enough. This is a killer. I heard an interesting talk where they say, what three-letter word is the greatest destroyer of ideas? Yes, but. You know, Lori, that's a great idea. Fantastic idea. But I've just diminished her, made her feel terrible that she wasn't valued. How is then she going to help me? We want to show people we're smart. We want to show people that we're valuable. But when we engage in this yes, but, we're doing the opposite. We're taking one step forward, and now we're taking two steps back. These are behaviors we can control. We have to be conscious about them. So when next time you're doing an interview or a networking call, record it. Get your phone out and record it. Play it back. See if you're doing things there that are that are undermining your progress without you even knowing it. Many people will say, yeah, you know, and they don't even know they're doing it. Record it. I used to go to certain networking meetings with clients when it was face-to-face. We'd go to let's say a Panera Bread. They'd sit in one booth, I'd sit in another. The person they're networking with would come in, I'd listen to what they did to try to find out what wasn't working for them because they weren't getting past the initial networking meeting. They weren't getting people referring them to high quality people. You can get people give you lousy people to network to, but you want higher level people. What were they doing wrong? That was very, very, very helpful to them. Next, using language that differs from that of the target company or industry. There's a principle in marketing that says power of the familiar. In 1958, Ford Motor Company came out with a car called the Edsel. Technically, it was a wonderful car, but it looked weird. And people don't want to buy weird. Well, some people do, but it was small perception. But nobody wanted to buy the car. It was the looks of the car. that turn people away. We buy what's familiar to us. And if we're speaking a language different than the language they speak, then we're going to have people not connect with us. We're not familiar. We may not fit in. That goes to their head. So you want to research what's the language that they're using. Go to YouTube, listen to some of the talks given by their executives, read some of the material that their PR department puts out, learn the language of the company or the industry so you can speak it. People want to change industries today. Learn the language of that industry. I don't speak Spanish. I speak English. But if I wanted to work for a Spanish-based company, I have to learn Spanish. It's that simple. Learn their language. Another is that many of us are afraid to make the ask. When do I make the ask, Charlie? When do I ask for them for what they're doing? We'd have to make an ask to get to that next level. It's expected of us. Lastly, these people end up getting a lack of meetings with real people of influence. You could talk to a lot of different people, but are they influential? Do they have a network that's going to be important to what you're trying to accomplish? They could be prospects or clients or vendors or salespeople. These people need to advocate for you. They have clout. There's a group in Dallas that I visit with every week. These are very senior level people like us here at Beacon. And every week there's announcements of people landing. And every single one in the last 3 months, networking. Now we all know the value of it. But if we're not speaking to the right people that have influence above them, it's a wasted call, in my opinion. You only have so much time. How we use it and with whom we spend it is critical. So in the chat box, if you would, which of these 5 do you think is the top one? Well, actually, there weren't 5, there were 11 of them.
We got a about me versus about them. Lack of stories about me. Authentic stories. For me, Charlie, I'd say probably the about me and then also the lack of good stories. Waiting for the lead. Timing.
I was raised not to speak unless spoken to. Follower versus leader, right? So if that's embedded deep in our head, what's the head trash that we carry around with us that's affecting us? You know? Infobesity. I can't tell you how many people practice this, and what it does is it prevents people from helping them. Example, I was in a Zoom room last week. The question was, what's your unique selling proposition? There were 5 people in a room. Everybody was going to get 3 minutes. One particular person, 4.5 minutes in, he shut up. And I was running the room and I said, everybody just summarize what he said. And everybody tried to summarize it. And I summarized it and I simply said, listen, you know what buyers need to hear to buy from your clients. And he said, exactly, that's exactly it. I said, why didn't you say that? He wasted 4.5 minutes of people's time by not knowing who he was and the value he delivered. Hadn't done his homework. Now, I'm not being harsh. I just know that these people are great people, but they're coming up short because they haven't mastered the art of marketing themselves. And this is a very important piece of it. So again, this process has 3 stages we go through. And if time permitting, financially committed, you're financially supported, I walk people through those processes. It works. So another thing to consider, what do you do? Why do you do it and how do you do it? Most people, when they network or when they interview, they spend a lot of time talking about how do they do it. Quite candidly, most people don't care. That when you're talking to your hiring manager and the people that you're going to support, yes, this is important. But people talk about this rabbit hole too soon. And they go down that rabbit hole and they lose people with the complexities of the answers that they give. If they say to you, how do you do that? Then great. They want to go down a rabbit hole with you. But too many times we take them down that rabbit hole when they're not ready for it. So understand what it is you do in human speak, not in corporate speak. not $25 words, but you're sitting at a bar and you're talking to somebody. What do? You're not going to use those big words. Why do you do it? That's important. Are you passionate about it? Is it something that you're going to continue being passionate about as you move forward? And most importantly, will they buy that? And will they pay you the money you're worth? That's where you'll find the right opportunity, where those things come together. A lot of things that people later in their life want to do are not going to pay them the kind of money they need. Not everybody can retire at 63, 4, or 5. They need to continue to work and make money. And a lot of the things that their heart tells them to do, they're not going to pay them the right amount of money. So the question is, what do hiring authorities need to see, hear, and feel from you about you to cause them to select you versus other candidates? So again, here's the summarization. This is in a deck for you to look at. I want to move on to the master class, as I called it. We're going to go to each of these areas, and I'm going to take a look at what happens in these areas when you go into these areas when you haven't figured yourself out. I just call it the inauthentic you. So what are the best 3 words to describe you? Best 3 words. Jot them down. You don't have to put them in the chat box, but just put them down. If somebody says, hey, David, tell me about yourself in 3 words. Now they can be individual words, David, or they can be 1 word. Somebody once said to me, my 3 words, Charlie, yes, we can. Okay, great. It talks about their philosophy of collaboration. Yes, we can. Other people will use individual words. What are the 3 words that you would use? They may be under your picture on LinkedIn, maybe. If you want to put them in the chat, feel free to do so. If they're in the chat, I'll have Ken read them.
I think people are keeping them to themselves, which I understand that too, but nothing for now, Charles.
What I've learned over time is those 3 words may change given the audience to whom you're speaking. So if you're speaking to a bunch of fellow people in transition, that's one thing. If you're dealing with a bunch of consultants, it's different. If you're dealing with internal hiring people, it may be different. We have to understand what words describe us. So here are the top 3 words that been used. Now, if you look at the bottom, these are not my words. These are words that came from 105 other people. These are the top 3 words that they picked in 2019. Charlie's inspirational, he's collaborative, and he's authentic. Now, if I said that out loud and said, I am inspirational, collaborative, authentic, my mother would climb out of her grave and she would chase me around the block. I was not allowed to brag. So, but when I use the words of other people, that will enhance my credibility. People may believe it if other people have said it about me. The other aspect of what are some of my competencies around leadership? These are the top 3 that people came out with. I share them with you because you have similar words inside you that you need to find or rediscover because they've been there a long time, so that you can articulate them to the world so people see you the way you want to be seen, so that you can serve them in the manner in which you want to serve them. So again, this is for your edification when you have the deck. These are all the areas that are worth exploring that will help reveal who you are. What do you stand for? What are your values? Some of your values may be cooperation. Some of your values may be achievement. They're all different for everybody, but we need to know what they are because they're going to be the main drivers of our work. What are your strengths? And strength finders will help you figure those out. But what are your strengths? Nobody hires you for your weaknesses, they hire you for your strengths. What are they? And how can you discuss them in a very short little paragraph or 2, speaking the language of your potential employer? What's your purpose? They say it's your why. What's your why? What drives you? Because if you know what your why is, you're going to look for that similar why in the companies that you want to work with, because now you're on the same page. None of you selected a partner for the rest of your life because the values and purpose were misaligned with you. You didn't. That's why you dated. That's why you had an engagement period, to see if you were compatible. Even then, 50% of them don't work out. What do you do? How do you do it? And why do you do it? An examination of many of the things on that previous slide will help you answer these particular questions. Because at some point, somebody says, well, Ken, why did you leave corporate America and become a coach? Ken sure's got a great answer. He's got a wide formulated answer for that. That means that his heart's in it, just not his brain. He's not doing it for his pocketbook. He's doing it for his heart and his pocketbook. So what does clarity sound like? This is the statement of a world famous coach. Marshall gets $100,000 a year to spend about 6 meetings with key executives like the heads of Ford and Boeing and places like that. And this is how he describes himself. What he does, for whom does he do it? What do they get out of it? And how does it help the bottom line? Here's a former Beacon member. I'm a CTO, a chief triage officer. Everybody said, what? I work with operationally dysfunctional organizations to help them regain their market preeminence, because obviously they've fallen off, so they get bigger margins down the line. So I said to Carolyn, tell me what you do. And basically she was saying that she's called in when companies are almost ready to go under and declare themselves bankrupt. They bring her as a last ditched effort. In my head, I thought of the word triage. But what I said to her was, hey, what was that show on TV many years ago, Hawkeye and Radar? And she says, oh, that was MASH. I said, yeah, I love that show. She said, yeah, I did too. What's MASH mean? Oh, Charlie, Mobile Army Surgical Hospital. Oh, okay. Well, what do they do there? That's not a hospital. Come on. She said, no, they bring in people from the field. What do they do with them? Well, they try to save their lives. They try to triage. And she got the word. She said, well, I do triage. I said, exactly. She said, you knew that all the time. I said, yeah, but if I had said it, it would be my idea. Now it's your idea. And you own it. And she could proudly throw her chest out and say, I'm a chief triage officer. We've quickly realized that once she brings them back to life, it gets them going again. She has to keep them well. So she's also a chief wellness officer at the same time. That stuff was already inside her. She couldn't get to it. Myself, I'm a human archaeologist. What's that mean? I guide senior level clients to uncover their hidden superpowers so they can transform their transitions into triumphs that achieve their goals and fulfill their purpose, in a nutshell. And listen, I have all kinds of different ways of expressing this to different audiences. We have to be nimble. We have to be agile. We have to be able to adapt our stories to the various groups we talk with if we expect them to support and help us. The authentic you really becomes your personal brand. Listen, a personal brand is not a fresh coat of paint on a rotting building. It's really digging down and find out what really makes you tick, how other people perceive you. And here are some ways of expressing that I've found over time that ring true for many people. Which one would you resonate with about yourself? On this call, we have a new member, Tom Hart. I urge you all to get to know Tom. Tom does some great service for our country. A lot of the work he's doing is being relied upon right now in the conflict in Ukraine. Get to know him and understand what his brand is.
Charlie,
Yes,
it's Eleanor. I believe it's Timothy.
Timothy. My apologies.
No
Thank you.
problem.
Eleanor
Absolutely.
keeps me honest, folks. Eleanor keeps me honest. There we go. All right. So again, we discover the authentic you. You all have an opinion of yourself, your perspective. You've taken various tests, Strong Campbell, Myers-Briggs, DISC, whatever, and you get some insights into yourself. I suggest to you that's not enough to truly get a sense of who you are. You need to hear from other people. You need to get feedback from other people. Now, don't take them to dinner and ask them to tell you what they really think about you, because the first thing they'll say is, are you picking up the bill? They're not going to tell you the truth. They don't want to offend you. They don't want to be disrespectful to you. There's other ways of getting that information from them. And if you take these 3 domains and you weave them together, chances are you'll discover who that authentic you really, really is. When I've done this exercise myself, I learned some things about myself I just didn't know. They were blind spots that I had to work on if I wanted to be that better version of myself. Last, now we'll go to alignment. Who said that Come on, who said it? You're going to age yourself here. Come on.
Can't help you.
These philosophers are still around and ready to go on the road again.
Rolling
Fred-
Stones,
Come
everyone.
on, people, come on.
Rolling Stones, wake up.
All right. So again, in the alignment, we're talking about these things. What's the best position for you? What's the right kind of boss, the right kind of team, the right industry, the right niche, the right kind of organization? Understanding what those are will help you communicate when you network to people of what you're looking for. Is the company in the growth mode? Is the company trying to turn itself around? Are they public, private, nonprofit? Understanding all of that, and then being able to answer the question, well, why are you focusing on those? And having an answer that sounds, that it resonates truth and it resonates authenticity, so important. These are the areas that alignment is, the alignment work identifies. So here is, this is just from last week, 2 weeks ago. This particular person presented themselves to me this way. I know you're all excited to find out who he is so you can help him. Blah, blah, blah. Sounds like everybody else. That's Charlie's opinion. Yours different, might be different. And so he's starting to work on coming up with his own version. How can he better say that as he discovers himself a little bit more? And this is what version 2.0, this is what he's come up with a little bit. So it sounds a little bit different. I got a better feel for where he wants to add value and what matters to him. He wants to work for a company that protects, saves, and extends human lives. That resonates with me, not up here, resonates with me here. This guy really wants to help. Therefore, I may want to help him. But that's just me. So this is in your deck so you can look at it. It's not done yet. So if these were two different people, which ones would you advocate for within your circle of influence? Because remember, you've built up relational capital with people in your network. You don't want that damaged by sending the wrong person in to talk to them. Executive presence on LinkedIn, take a moment. I'm not going to waste a lot of time on this right now. Please read this. This is how one person presented himself. This is exactly what it says on LinkedIn right now. And this is what we are proposing to change. It's totally different. One tells a story, one's a whole litany of facts about the person. And again, which one is more authentic? You'll make that determination yourself. The last phase, targeted engagement, is all about your marketing strategies and tactics built around the brand that you've discovered for yourself. And then discipline execution. I don't want you to think because you have new facts about job search that you can go out and properly execute them. We need to work on this. You need to really bulletproof yourself to make sure that what you want to say to the world is based in fact and will get the kind of results you're looking for. The devil's is in the details of the execution. Why do 90% of businesses that are founded in America die within the first year? Because they didn't do their homework, no matter how hard they tried to execute. What are the consequences when you're in each of these phases, or pardon me, when you're in the execution process, if you're not you? You won't get the level of trust you need for people to risk introducing you to the right people. So these are the 4 stages of the execution process. Getting in to see the right people, starting interviewing for particular roles. Once you get an offer, how do you do a counter offer? Because you know and I know the initial offer you get is not the best. And I'm just not talking about money. And then finally, when you're in there, how do you build your brand internally so that you build your reputation so that you are considered for advancement or being on certain committees, et cetera. Let's start with gaining access. So what happens if you're inauthentic? Here are some of the items. You come across as blah, blah, blah versus wow. So imagine the first couple of weeks in your new job. Not your new job, when you're interviewing with a company. They interview a lot of people. The hiring team gets together. They compare candidates. Are you in the blah, blah, blah column or are you in the wow column? This person is valuable. I know where we want to be, but be honest with ourselves. Are we sounding blah, blah, blah? Next, if we don't have our authentic self together, we miss opportunities to get targeted people of influence to get to know, like, and trust us enough to refer us to other people. We're dead at a low. They hear us introduce ourselves. It's formulaic. They immediately think, at least I do, the person lacks that executive presence to earn the right to advance. Because again, executive presence just doesn't happen in the inner circles of the highest offices in a company. They recognize that you have presence that'll help you rise in the company. Also, it's going to erode any hard-won relational capital that you may have earned along the way. Because what happens is, when they don't feel that you're authentic, you're raising the risk of them supporting you and referring you. It raises a potential distrust, and they hesitate. The buyer can be an influencer, it could be somebody that's a hiring manager, but there's hesitation on their part. He who hesitates is lost. That's you. They're hesitating, you're going to get lost. Finally, it could lead to rejection. That rejection causes you to lower your confidence, and then you'll settle. So maybe you'll say, you know, that VP level, maybe I'm no longer, maybe I should, come down a notch. That's because you haven't laid the proper foundation of who you are, the value you can deliver. And what we're doing is we're backsliding. You didn't come all this way to go backwards. You're bouncing forward. That's the whole idea. Now, when you're in the interviewing process, being inauthentic causes a lack of trust. They shut down versus opening up. Listen, in order to really understand how you can contribute, where those blind spots are in their company, where those areas where you can really help them, they have to talk to you. They have to open up. But if they don't feel comfortable with you, that you're the real deal, that you're speaking from your truth, they may not do that. And then you lose that trust and you don't move forward. Or you underachieve by not projecting your unique selling proposition, your unique promise of sustainable value. That's what I mean by that. That's not coming across to them. You're not articulating it. They're not connecting that with their vision of where they want to go. Could create missed opportunities for you to showcase your innovative side or your potential contributions beyond what the job specs are. There's so much more you can deliver. One candidate recently said to me, I really love mentoring people. Well, ask them if they got a mentoring program. And if not, would there be a value in you setting one up for them? Now you've created added value beyond what's in the job description. And believe me, they're not going to go back to the other candidates and say, oh, by the way, can you build a mentoring program? They're not going to do that. It's unique unto you. It separates you from the rest. And finally, it often causes you to be left in the red zone, 1 yard line. You're not getting into the end zone. You're the bridesmaid. And we begin to doubt ourselves. We begin to lower our price. You didn't come all this way to do that. Authenticity matters. Okay. Now, when you get an offer.
Charlie, I'm sorry to interrupt. We have about 10 minutes left, so just giving you a little heads up.
That's fine. That's fine.
All right.
I'm on the downward slope. So when you get an offer and you propose a counter offer, your chances of getting them to agree to it is less because you've lowered your preeminence, because you're not, they're sensing you're not, they may need you desperately, but they're not willing to pay for it because you have demonstrated you may not be worth it. You end up with a win-lose final offer. You underachieve financially. It lays the groundwork for disrespect in the company. When you want more, they're thinking, why? Well, we don't see why we should give you more than you want. Or what you want. Why should we give that to you? They haven't gotten that yet. And here's the important thing. If you start at 210 instead of 240, that sets a baseline for the future. If you start as a director instead of a VP, it sets the groundwork for the future, internally and externally. During the onboarding period, it reduces the perception of the value you can create. They may not listen to you if they don't value you. It leads to ineffective communication with teams. Does your opinion matter? When you blend in and commoditize your work, you don't stand out. It takes longer for your internal business partners to trust you. And it contributes to a lack of positive visibility, reducing confidence in your talents, reducing reputational capital, and missed career opportunities. These are all things that happen because we haven't gotten in touch with who we really are. So to begin to summarize, decision makers hire you, the authentic you, when they get you clearly. when they feel good about you, know you will do what you say you'll do, and finally, they feel that you offer a clear, diverse value proposition. You have more than one value proposition. They want to hear about it, and you need to know what to share with them. My mantra moving forward, you have to win their hearts. They have to feel good about you. That enables you to shape their minds, to perceive you the way you want to be perceived. And finally, that will influence the outcomes that you get from your search. Again, it's all about knowing, liking, and trusting you. So again, I promised you 10, I gave you more than 20. We took a deeper dive into the top 3 mistakes. You were able to get a sense of what's changing in the hiring process that you may very much want to adapt your approach to. I went through the 3-step process of marketing you, and we went through a very rapid masterclass. I believe in endless possibilities. They're there if we're properly laid the foundation to do so. So I want to thank you. You could have been somewhere else this afternoon. You chose to be here. Hopefully you benefited from the conversation. This video is going to be on the Beacon site, and you're going to get a copy of the slides as well. Okay, questions and answers.
All right. Well, first of all, Charlie, thank you very much. It was a really great presentation, a lot of great stuff. And I think people will appreciate the slides because there really is so much good information. I know people don't want to miss anything in there. If you have a question, if you want to put it in the chat, or if you want to just call it out, we're an informal group here, feel free to do that. In the meantime, I'm going to ask you, Charlie, a quick question. You know, you talk a lot about telling stories, and you gave some ideas about how to dig deep and figure out who you are and how you want to present yourself to the world. How do you help people find those stories? Where do they come from?
Tonight, everybody should pull out their resume and look at those great contributions they've made, achievements, whatever you want to call them, and go through each of them. I guarantee you that there are similarities in some of those with others, both early in your career and later in your career. And there are your stories. How did you get that accomplishment? What did you do? What special sauce did you bring to the table? Why were you the difference maker? Because on our resume, it just says, here's what I did and here's the results I got. That used to work. No longer works. It's not enough. They want to know more about that. Not only did you accomplish a 33% increase, what other collateral good came from that isn't mentioned in that single line accomplishment? Because when they hire you, they're not hiring you to do one thing. They want a lot out of you. They want a lot of contribution out of you. And sometimes they don't know what that is. And our stories tell them the breadth and depth of what we're capable of delivering. Hopefully, Ken, that answers your question.
Yeah, I think that's great. Thank you. You know, I'm wondering too, you know, we talk about the brand, personal branding, and I know you work with not only individual clients, maybe job seekers, but also with businesses to help them clarify. Are there any differences between a product brand and a personal brand, and or how you go about developing it?
Ken, specifically, I work with solopreneurs. Ken, how many employees do you have?
Do you want a real answer or you want to make something up?
Okay, so you're a solopreneur.
Yes.
People don't buy your company, they buy Ken.
Mm-hmm.
So they need to get to know Ken on a personal level, just not a professional level. What's Ken all about? What makes Ken tick? Because that's who they're dealing with. Now, if you have people reporting to you, they want to know who are the people I'll be interacting with on your team. They want to know about those particular people. Take law firms, for example. They'll have a roster of all of their lawyers, but you don't know much about them personally. You know their degrees, where they've gone, et cetera, but you don't know about them personally. And when you have a serious matter that needs professional attention, you want to get a feel for the kinds of people with whom you're going to be working. And that's where knowing the brand can be then taken and put on that legal website so that people understand what really makes these particular people tick. So I help individuals, Ken, not companies, big companies, et cetera. that's a little bit above my pay grade, and that's something that could I do it? Yeah, I could learn to do that. But there are other people that are much better at that than I am. And we
Okay,
have
great.
one in Beacon, Jerry Lance. He does that kind of work.
Mhm. All right, thank you for that clarification. And Eleanor wanted to say something. Eleanor, before we close out?
Sure, I just wanted to say how very valuable this was, Charlie. Thank you for sharing the deep dive, the master. It was very valuable. What can we do for you?
Oh, well, thank you, Eleanor. I put a slide in the deck. So I work with 3 different types of people quite well. Those that are in a career transition, trying to figure out what's next in their career, and they need help in how to get to that next. It's the execution. How do I get there? I work with people that have a job and they're looking for something more meaningful. They're dissatisfied with it. Something's missing and they need help in how to get there. And finally, I work with solopreneurs, coaches, and consultants who are stuck, derailed, and not getting traction. And I help them figure out what may be getting in the way is themselves. They don't know who they are. People buy them. They don't buy their process. They don't buy their product. They buy them first. Then the rest falls in place. Thank you, Eleanor.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Great. Okay, folks. Well, it's at the bottom of the hour, so I am going to close out. Again, Charlie, thank you for a great program. Awesome information. Everybody look for the slides and the video shortly as well. You see Charlie's contact information here. Zoe, thank you as always for making sure we had everything together with the promotion and with the technology. And Ford Myers, the co-chair on the Job Search and Career Development Committee.
Beacon is the premier executive networking organization serving the Mid-Atlantic region. To learn more, go to beaconforlife.org.